on the daily, we're right on that, right on this trend, but we're sort of like a little bit off. You see how we're not actually touching it yet? Here it's easier to see on the weekly, right? We're not actually down there. So we can actually fall a little bit more down here. And that's more than enough in order to get more upward movement, a blow off top in assets.
Last week, I think it was on this channel, it could have been on Traders Post, you're talking about the DXY. And you weren't sure if it was going to break up and out, signaling a bottom. A top for the market.
A top for the market, right.
So I hear you're saying, you called it, but you did have some worry last week that we could be in trouble here.
Yeah, but not for the week. For the week, I thought almost certainly that was could be the move, especially with the idea that if I was wrong, all I would lose is the one position in my account. So the risk reward was totally worthwhile. When it comes to the dollar here, these are always long-term plays, right? If we take a look at the dollar, we're dealing with something that takes weeks to play out. All right. So technical analysis on the dollar is pretty difficult. All I really care about for this is the trend. So let's add our trend indicator. And let's move it to the 1 month. So the 1 month trend on the dollar is, I find, the best source of truth.
By the way, if you're using the trend indicator, you have to set the time frame for higher than what your chart is, or you won't see those boxes. I was dealing with that this weekend.
Yeah, I actually added a note to just update that, so if people did that, it would give them a message on the chart. Hey, change your chart settings.
Awesome.
So you never want to be premature in the move on the dollar, right? Yes, we have a red trend that was broken by yellow. And oftentimes when that happens, we do move to a different trend, to a bullish trend. Like we saw over here, red to yellow, move to green. Over here, green to yellow, move to red. However, what you want to see usually in that yellow period is for the price to move dramatically in the other direction. So over here, it moved from green to yellow to red, but in that yellow, it dramatically moved bearishly. Whereas we're not having that here. In fact, we have the yellow that's pretty narrow. It's pretty small here. And the price has fallen down. So when this happens, what can happen is that you have a sideways movement for a while, and then a fall. This is a bear flag, right? This is what we call a bear flag. And it makes sense that we would, if it was going to happen, it would happen here because we are at our trend, right? This trend over here that I have drawn is a trend from 2014, right? So we're in this channel trend. So you'd imagine that if it's going to happen, it would happen around there. So over here, it tried to happen again back in 2021. It didn't happen, but at some point, this trend could break where this happens, and then the dollar falls down to over here to the 90 level. So that could always happen, which would coincide with a massive run up. So we don't know yet. And when I take a look on the daily, we're right on that, right on this trend, but we're sort of like a little bit off. You see how we're not actually touching it yet? Here it's easier to see on the weekly, right? We're not actually down there. So we can actually fall a little bit more down here. And that's more than enough in order to get more upward movement, a blow off top in assets.
So the lower it goes, the more bullish it is for assets, including Bitcoin. The higher it goes, the more bearish it is, because when there's more of a demand for dollars, that means people are selling assets in order to acquire dollars. And when the DXY is going down, that means people are selling dollars for assets because they believe they'll get more money in the future with assets.
Well done, Peter. Well done. He is my son, and he is well loved.
I'm figuring it out. It's all coming together.
Yeah, but it's no point in calling the trend move in the dollar until it actually happens. Here, let me just pull up the chart one last time to show you what I'm talking about here. Over here is an example where we had the red trend, right? It turned yellow. We even had a little bit of a green, and then it still continued lower. So 1/3 of the move still was yet to happen before it actually moved back to bearish trend, bullish trend.